to CBS 6 Federated Auto Parts 400 Preview Show. Sponsored by your Richmond area Toyota dealers.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back out to Richmond Raceway, where the fall racing weekend is already underway. Saturday night's Federated Auto Parts 400 is now the second race in NASCAR's playoffs, and as such holds a little bit greater significance than it did when it was the final race of their regular season. A win tomorrow night moves that driver automatically onto the next stage of NASCAR's postseason. Former Cup Series champ Brad Keselowski was here in town last week and told us why he likes seeing Richmond as part of the playoffs to determine the series' overall champion.
Yeah, I think with this, with Richmond being in the playoffs, it's certainly a different race than what it was before. It used to be the cutoff race. I like it better in the playoffs personally. I think it puts on good racing, and you have to be perfect because the playoffs, man, you can't afford any mistakes. I think you look at the NASCAR playoffs, and they're really a mix of all different types of racetracks: short tracks, intermediate tracks, road courses, and of course super speedways with Talladega. I think that blend makes it a difficult 10 weeks, but also makes it a 10 weeks where you feel like you've earned it if you win the championship.
And we are now joined by one of the busiest men in the entire Commonwealth this weekend, track president Dennis Bickmeyer. I'm getting about 3 hours of sleep a night over the last 2 weeks, something like that?
That's about right. Yeah, you can hear it in my voice. See, it's a tired voice, but this is what we do twice a year, man, and we're just so excited to get everything kicked off tomorrow morning.
I don't know that you could probably put the number of man hours together that it takes to put on an event like this, but you will start planning for next spring Monday or Sunday morning, really, when you get finished here. You started planning for this back in April, correct?
Yeah, there's no question. And 2020 is going to be bigger here at Richmond Raceway next year as well. We're adding the IndyCar Series. We got the Truck Series back, so we'll get to working on that pretty soon.
What is the number one thing that you hear from drivers who come here twice a year? We always hear that it's one of their favorite tracks to run on. What do they tell you about why it's one of their favorite tracks?
Well, because we're the only 3/4 mile that they race on. So that's, we're unique in that regard. So that's what makes it fun. And, they say it's a short track that races like a super speedway. So they could get some pretty good speeds here. You get that short track action as well. Everyone's always really close to one another. So it makes it fun for them to be able to race on something different than they do, 34 other times a year since we race here twice.
Not that you had a say in the matter, but from a marketing standpoint, the difference between being the last race in NASCAR's regular season and the second race in their playoffs, from how your team presents it to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, this race has a little bit of a different edge to it now, and so moving to the playoffs last year was a really good spark for it. We saw it in the grandstands. We're certainly going to see it again this Saturday night. But, we were that last race of the regular season for a while, since they started what used to be called the Chase. And, when the field expanded a little bit, not as much changed when they got here to Richmond to close out the regular season. Still a lot of action, but not a lot of movement, who was in and who was out of the playoffs. Now being race number 2 of the playoffs, and some uncertainty behind us because they go to Charlotte after us, and it's part oval, part road course. And I got to tell you, last year, I felt like we were getting talked over a little bit last year. We were new to the playoffs. Vegas, which was last week, they were new to the playoffs. The Roval, while Charlotte not being new, the Roval was. And I think so many people, because of the unknowns there, were looking at that race, not looking at ours. People I've talked to in the industry now, as you mentioned, Brad, I think the dialogue's flipped a little bit. There's a lot more focus on us now. You got to get it done here Saturday night.
With the new $30 million renovation to the infield, there goes along a lot of things that are for the fans. And one of them is the Garage Walk of Honor that the racetrack adds to twice a year now. Giant panels that celebrate the history of the sport here in the state. Tell us about the 2 people that you honored this year.
Well, just last week, Rick Hendrick, who's a Virginian, multiple NASCAR Cup Series championships, Jimmy Johnson, Terry Labonte, Jeff Gordon, one of the top echelon owners of all time, a Hall of Famer as well for NASCAR, and then H. Clay Earls, who built Martinsville Speedway. And if you look at what he did at Martinsville Speedway in the 1940s, that kind of set the benchmark for other facilities to be developed. Certainly this one not too far after Martinsville, Darlington as well. So I think Mr. Earls, kind of set the groundwork for everything that we have today here in Virginia.
And real quickly, it's not all about auto racing out here, too, because last night you hosted a national championship in this building over to our left. The Professional Women's Bowling Association, again, held their season-ending tour championship here.
Yeah, so it's been playoff fever here in Richmond already before the 2 NASCAR races tomorrow and Saturday. But certainly the tour championships, our 3rd year of hosting the Women's Professional Bowling Association here. So we got a great champion in Shannon O'Keefe. It's her 2nd time winning the tour championship here. But now what's cool is we keep the lanes up for the fans. So tomorrow, if you come out here on Friday, and don't forget kids 12 and under free tomorrow, come out, bowl. There's a lot that's going on out here tomorrow. We got Paw Patrol out here tomorrow. I mean, there's something for everybody out here.
We've already seen a lot of kids out here riding their bikes, so there may be some absence in school tomorrow. Dennis, thanks very much. Go rest the voice. We got a busy weekend out here.